Well, folks, we got a big one today. I want to talk to you about something. We put a lot of research into this. My team and I scoured a bunch of my favorite authors, actually, and put together a topic here about why some contractors get wealthy, rich, and others stay stuck. You may have thought this yourself, but do you ever wonder why some contractors, guys just like you, and you see them around town just like you, why are they running multiple businesses at a time? And I'm having trouble just running this one company. How do they build real wealth? You might see a first generation business that's already has multiple businesses, lots of real estate, really good branding, a solid team. People are fighting to be on that team. Customers are lined up with a waiting list to be their clients. And you're wondering, why am I different? How can I get there? And how do they build real wealth? Why other guys that are stuck working long hours for just enough to get by, making apologies at home at their kitchen table instead of planning their next vacation with their wonderful family. Well, I got to tell you, it's not luck. It's not about working harder. It's how you think. It really comes down to mindset. For those of you who've been through any of the trainings with us, you'll notice that we always start our trainings, our courses, our coaching with mindset. Because as Brian Tracy, my mentor and old business partner, used to say, Dominic, you've got a 4-inch problem. First time I heard that, I was like, well, that's a little bit forward. But the 4 inches he meant was the 4 inches between my ears. That's the problem we have, gentlemen, a 4-inch problem. It's mindset, right? The guys who win at this game know how to think. They follow a proven formula. So today I'm going to break that formula down into a couple of simple principles, 4, maybe 5, from some of the smartest minds in business and strategy. And the reason I did that is so you can go follow up. You can do more studying if you like, or you can continue to track along here. I also have a number of downloads that are available for you. We call them professional development tools, and you're going to want to grab those so you can start to put the fundamentals in place in your business to help you move along the way you want. And by the end of this, you're going to know exactly what you need to do to move from stuck in the grind to building a business that creates wealth for you and your family. So the very first thing, step number 1, I want you to think like a general. Think like a general. So do this for me. Shoulders back, chest up. Sit up tight up straight in your chair. Just lift your chin up just a little bit. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's that power feeling I want you to have. I want you to think like a general. And this comes from The Art of War by Sun Tzu. One of my favorite authors, you've heard me talk about him here before. Every battle is won before it's even fought. Smart contractors don't react to problems. They position themselves to win before problems even happen. If you find yourself in a place where your business is constantly chaotic, that's actually a sign of poor positioning. Winning in business means having predictability, clarity, predictable lead flow, a strong team that you can believe in, that you can trust. And yes, we'll talk about that later, how to build the right team, because building the right team is one of the keys to building wealth. And also having solid pricing you believe in. That pricing that you believe in is also going to give you the power to say no to the wrong jobs and say yes to the right jobs, because I don't want you getting squeezed when things get tight. And so the shift you need to make in the Sun Tzu Art of War framework is, instead of always fixing problems, I want you to set up systems that prevent those problems from happening. Now, if you want some professional development tools to help you as a contractor to move down that path, one of the tools that I think you should get from me is the essential list of cabinet shop, home builder, renovator, and remodeler SOPs. SOP, as you know, stands for standard operating procedures. I like to call them simple systems, whatever you call them. If you want that list from me, it's a great starting place. And look, all of my systems, all of the systems that we provide are 80% perfect and 20% not so good. But the point is, you're supposed to customize them. In a lot of cases, they're actually unlocked documents. And the reason for that is so you can download them and change them as you need to. Maybe put your own logo in there if you want to make it an SOP for your team. All of these things are made to be tools that you actively use in your business, right? And if you can't use them, they're useless. So that's why this tool is, I think, so powerful. It's called the Essential List of Cabinet Shop, Home Builder, Renovator, and Remodeler SOPs. If you want it, shoot me a text. It's called Essential SOPs. It's okay if you misspell the word essential, but try to get the 3-letter word SOP right. My cell phone number is 315-903 7853. Just say essential SOPs and I'll have somebody, probably Rio, send it off to you because I'm usually back to back in meetings. If you guys haven't had a chance to meet Rio, he's a fantastic member of the team. Brought him on here about 6 months ago, and he's just been a fantastic addition. He and I are back and forth all day long because Like I said, I'm balancing meetings with talking to him, and he's talking to you, and we're making sure the documents get out. Listen, let's move on to the second step here. Do what others won't, right? So when we talk about wealth creation, when we talk about multi-generational wealth creation, it's not about, you just have to do the things, the simple things that other people won't do. Lately on my Instagram feed, I'm seeing a lot of posts from sports coaches. My son's moving on to a pretty high level of sport himself, and I'm getting a lot of those sports feeds. And the coaches on that, and it's coming from multiple places, are saying do the simple things that require no skill. And they're talking about showing up on time, being prepared for a game, eating right, going to bed on time, all of those things. But in business, we have those simple disciplines that we need as well. So this one I got from Brian Tracy, and some of you may not know this, but Brian Tracy and I were business partners for about 13 years in my last company, and I sold that business. That business I built from 6 locations up to 237 locations around the world. And so Brian and I worked very closely together in doing that. Brian is famous for many books he's written, but one of the most famous is called Eat That Frog, which is a book on time management and procrastination. Incidentally, I do have a time management series coming up on YouTube that you'll be able to subscribe to. So make sure you go over to the YouTube channel and look for the time management series. But anyways, back to Brian Tracy. Do what others won't. Now, this comes from Brian's book called The Psychology of Achievement. It's a great book. It's also one of his bestsellers, The Psychology of Achievement. And here's what he says in that book is successful people do the things unsuccessful people don't like to do, right? And so that is getting up early, dealing with problems as they come up, strategizing, dealing with people fairly, holding on to your own position and understanding your value. Again, do that thing where I asked you to put your shoulders back, chest up, chin up just by half an inch, breathe in through your mouth, out through your nose. You're the leader of this business, and everybody in this business needs you to lead, needs you to pave the way for them so they can come to work and have a great job, so they have more jobs in the future. It doesn't matter what kind of contracting you do. Do the things unsuccessful people don't like to do, right? Most contractors avoid the hard, boring work that actually grows their business. Most businesses, the part that makes you money isn't the most exciting part, but that work of going out and having coffee with people, builders and GCs, architects, designers, specifiers, that might seem boring to you, or it might seem exciting to you, but that discipline up front gets you the business at the back end. Right? Hey, are you the president or learning chair for a trade association? Well, I've decided to give back big time this year. If you are the president or learning chair of a local trade association, get in touch with me. Send me a text message at 315-903-7853, and I will do a Zoom training for all of the members of your local chapter. It's my way of giving back so we can help everybody in the industry. Just hope that things work out. Well, you can finish this for me. Hope is not a strategy, right? Successful people do the things unsuccessful people don't like to do. Whereas wealthy business owners, and I'm talking beyond rich, I'm talking about wealthy business owners discipline themselves to focus on what actually moves the needle, right? Always having laser focus on resource allocation. I actually learned that from Alex Hormozy when I'm part of his coaching group right now, and I'm learning a ton from him. Laser focus on resource allocation. And then from Brian Tracy, successful people do the things unsuccessful people don't like to do. Well, don't be that guy, right? So here's the shift I want you to make. I want you to start every day by tackling the most important task first. And I want you to get that. If you start work at 8 o'clock, I want that thing done by 8:05. Right? If that's the discipline you have to bring into work, imagine what your kids are going to see. Imagine what your foreman is going to see in you. They're going to be like, that owner tackles things up front. Nothing catches him by surprise. And if it does, he turns around and he tackles it. That's the kind of company we want to be. It's not hard. You don't have to be any sort of personality. You can be a soft-spoken person. You can be a loud person. It just doesn't matter who you are, but go deal with that thing right away. Anyways, if you want a little bit more insight into this, one of the professional development tools that we have available for you is called the Finance and Forecast Meeting Agenda. Now, this is a very simple monthly, well, you should have this meeting every 6 weeks. So at the end of the month, plus 2 weeks. So you've got the prior month's finances. It's the Finance and Forecast Meeting Agenda. Listen, if you don't, this meeting could sound boring. You're like, oh, we're going to look at the numbers. I don't like numbers, right? I don't care. Look at the patterns in the numbers. Have your finance person, have your bookkeeper, whoever it is, report those numbers to you in a functional way and have a discussion about the numbers, right? We're here to count the numbers so that we can count the hours and days with our family. That's what we're here to do. Anyways, if you want that from me, shoot me a text. Just say finance meeting agenda, and we'll send that off to you, right? Now, the third thing I want to bring up here comes from Michael Gerber, who wrote a fantastic book. It's called The E-Myth Revisited. Now, some of you may remember or may have heard me say this before. I call The E-Myth Revisited the most painful book I ever read. And the reason for that is, when was I reading this book? I became a business coach in the year 2000. It's 2025 right now. So I've been at this for a couple days. So I probably would have been reading this book in 2001, probably very early, maybe even in the year 2000. And my wife saw me pacing around the living room one night, and I'd read this book and I'd close it and I'd smash it against my head. She's like, Dom, what are you doing? And I'm like, this book gets me. Everything he says, it's me. And so I just smash it against my head, and then I'd open up and keep reading it. So that's just my way of learning, I guess, beating it into my head. Anyways, Gerber has got really great insight into the simplicity of business, and really what it comes down to. That whole book, I can summarize it for you here. If your business depends on you, you don't own a business. You own a job. You just have a job, right? And this might be, if you've ever thought about wanting to sell the business one day, your business isn't viable, my friend. If it relies on you, nobody's going to buy that company, right? If it relies on you, you're always going to have trouble scaling. We have to get your business to the point where you've got great people in place, and we'll get to people in a moment. We got great people in place who are well trained on simple systems to run the business the way you want. And we have solid, predictable leads coming in, and we know how to convert those into business, and we know how to produce quality product. Right? All of those things have to happen, and it's all possible. You can do it. We've shown lots of people how to do it, and you certainly have the skill to do it. Just got to remember, if your business depends on you, you don't own a business, you own a job. And most contractors stay trapped in their business because they never build systems, right? They want to rely on chaos, not clarity. You got to have repeatability, predictability, right? Systems. A business owner that handles every decision, every problem, every fire, they can never step away. Right? It might make you feel good. You might make you feel like a hero, but you're not in business leadership mode. You're in survival mode. A real business runs without the owner being involved in everything. Now, that's a path, right? Maybe today you are involved in everything, but over time, let me show you how to get yourself out of every little decision so you can make the big decisions. And that's, of course, where we come down to revenue responsibility per hour. I won't talk about that today because we've got a lot to cover here. But listen, if you want to see the inside track on, remember we talked about mindset? How would somebody like me, a business coach, or any of the coaches on my team, how would we dissect your particular situation and help you put the right systems in place in the right order? Because there's lots of things that need to be dealt with in a company. The problem is you got to know which things to go after, which things to ignore, which ones to wait. And of course, if you've got a list of 10 priorities that you already know need to be taken care of, that list has items 1 through 10. Well, not all of them have to be dealt with first, but what does come first and what comes second and what comes 10th, right? Of course, I want to add on here the respect, and I know many of you are in this situation. If you are in a business partnership or you have a family business and you've got somebody else who's running that business with you, we have to respect that they might have a list 1 through 10, but the order is different. And one of the things that we're really good at is actually working with family businesses and close partnerships and understanding how that works. But I'll get to that maybe in another episode. If your business depends on you and your partner or another family member, you guys don't own a business. You still own a job. We can get you out of that, but you've got to start to put simple systems in place, very simple systems that other people can follow so that you can start to build this business. And you actually need to step away to build more space for other people. That's how you build wealth. You build wealth by allowing others to succeed inside your business. Anyways, the tool that I think you should use for this is something that we call the Construction Millionaire Blueprint. It's a flow chart, and it maps the thought process that I've learned over the years from working with gurus like Brian Tracy, Michael Gerber, Brad Sugars, Alex Hormozy, all of these different authors and the books I've read, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. I love that book. It all follows that there's an order of operations for reinventing a business while you're running it. Imagine building an airplane while you're flying it. That's what we're really good at doing. But we can't just do it with magic. It might seem simple, but it follows a simple system. We have simple systems for our business as well. right? And so the Construction Millionaire Blueprint lays everything out for you, and you can see where you are on the scale from the top to the bottom. And then you can figure out, well, if we, yes, we have this, yes, we have this, yes, we have that, right? So items 1, 2, and 3, we're solid. Ooh, item 4, we're not that solid. What it means is you go back up one step and fix what needs to be fixed so that now you're better at item 4. And guess what? The next item pops up again. One of the things that I learned from one of my clients, especially when he saw this flow chart, is he goes, Dom, I know every one of these steps. It's no big deal. He goes, our problem is the part in between the steps. And that's what we worked on, right? And actually, I'll talk about their company later. Anyways, if you want the Construction Millionaire Blueprint from us, just send me the word blueprint. If you don't have my cell phone, this is the number. It's 315-903-7853, and just say blueprint. Just text me the word blueprint and send it off. And then Rio will make sure you get that if I'm in meetings and I'm not able to get back to you right away. All right, you ready to move on to the next one? This one comes from Robert Kiyosaki, fantastic author. He had a great book many years ago called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I have to say Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I remember telling one of my clients years ago, you got to buy this book. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So he went online looking for the books. And then in our next coaching meeting, he's like, Dom, I couldn't find that book. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You couldn't find that book. It's super famous. He goes, no. I even got on the chat and I said, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm like, dude, how did you get that from our meeting? It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Anyways, Robert Kiyosaki is a great author. He's also a friend of Brian Tracy's. You may have seen him speaking. He actually made a great game, like a board game you can play with your kids. It's called the Cash Flow Quadrant. Fantastic game. You want to talk about building real wealth creation, multi-generational wealth? Teach your kids the things that other people don't teach. Teach your kids how to play with money, how to know about money, how to count things. Teach them the power of compound interest. Have those conversations with your kids. It's different than anybody else talks to their kids about. And those are the rules of wealth that you never hear about, maybe unless you listen to this show or watch this on YouTube. Anyways, Kiyosaki is a real big proponent that the rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. Think about that. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. You might have even heard this saying. I heard it a lot with a thick Italian accent as I grew up. You got to have money to make money. It's the same thing. The wealthy really know how to make money work for them. They understand the power of leverage. But most contractors are stuck in something called self-employed mode. If you stop working, the money stops coming in. If that's the case for you, you are currently self-employed. And your path to wealth creation has been started because you're self-employed. Perfect. Better than being employed at a job. But you have a lot more evolution that you have to go through. See, wealthy contractors turn their business into an asset so that it pays them whether they're working or not. And again, we like to have recurring revenue contracts. We talk about ongoing scheduling with our clients. We talk about servicing the builders that are sending us work or architects that are sending us work so that it can be predictable. Once we know that that architect's going to send us 4 jobs a year, that's predictable. You can build a business on that. If you have a way to add recurring revenue to your business, like service revenue, find a way to do that. It massively increases the value of your business. That's why HVAC companies sell for so much, because they put people on service contracts, right? The other thing that wealthy people do is they invest profits into systems. They invest into real estate and other businesses that generate passive income. Excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. That cough has been coming for a while. There's a contractor who I've interviewed on the show before. He's been a longtime client of ours. He changed the legacy of his last name. Now, when we started working together, he was only doing $1 million, which to some of you might sound fantastic. And to others, you're like, we passed $1 million years ago. But he was $1 million and not profitable at all. Working as hard as he could, not seeing his family, absolutely stressed, and doing $1 million. He was working too hard for what he was getting out of it. I won't take you through the whole path here because you can hear it on other episodes, but he's now in a place where he is $5 million a year, around 20% net profit. Think about that, 20% net profit. And he owns his real estate. Not only, so we got him to a place where he could buy a plot of land really close to his old shop. And he used to rent a dairy barn from his dad. So he had artificially low rents, and that actually kept his pricing ability low. Get into that later. Anyways, he now bought a piece of land. He subdivided it and he built on half of the land. Okay. So keep in mind this big chunk of land, he's got half of it built on and half of it waiting. The half that he built on, he built himself a massive new production facility. But he built it, let's just, I'll pick round numbers here. He built a 30,000 square foot facility. He took 10,000 for himself, and he made 2 more units of 10,000 square feet each. He rented those other 2 units out to other people. The amount they pay him back makes his rent on his 10,000 square feet less than he used to pay for rent in a dairy barn. That is wealth creation. So when I say that gentleman changed the legacy of his last name, that's the path you're on, as long as you recognize, hey, if I'm in self-employed mode, I got to start thinking differently, acting differently. Listening to this show or watching this show, you're on the perfect path. Just keep doing that, right? You'll get there, but we have to take it one step at a time. We got to move you from chaos to clarity, and we have to do that by using simple systems. Remember, the rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. And this gentleman here has just done a fantastic job, but literally he's changed the legacy of his last name. Think about this for a second. Let's use a cabinet shop as an example. Let's say you run a cabinet shop and you've got 3 kids, right? You got 1 boy and 2 daughters. Now, I don't know if the boy or the 2 girls are going to follow you in the cabinet shop business, but for the sake of it, let's say the boy does. What are you leaving for the girls? Are they less important than your son? I don't think so. And you don't think so. And your wife doesn't think so. But if you build a family wealth package that includes the real estate and the business, you totally change the impact of your last name. That's what I mean by changing the legacy of your last name, right? If all you've got is a cabinet shop and it's not running very well, you shouldn't give it to any of your kids. You're going to give them a broken jalopy. Would you put your kids in a car that didn't run very well or that was unsafe to drive? Why would you put them in a broken business? If you had a really high functioning business that ran on simple systems and was predictable, that'd be great. That would then spin off enough profit for you to buy real estate. And now one day your family, your kids, when you and I aren't here, are sitting around a big boardroom table making the big important decisions that you want them to make. It's the life we all want for our kids, right? But it starts today. It starts by you listening to this or watching this show or any of the other episodes we have here on YouTube. It starts here, but you've got to go put it in place, right? Anyways, I want you to take that shift. By the way, there's another, let me give you another example. This happens to be another millwork shop, actually. In the city they're in, if an architect, a designer, or a GC sends out request for bids or, filters it out to its network, what nobody knows is that 3 of the companies that receive the bids are the same company. Think about that. It's called vertical integration. Now, these guys started out as a millwork shop. Fantastic, right? Do great work, beautiful work. But they realized they were missing parts of the opportunity. We realized this through coaching. They probably started working with me in the year 2020, 2021, without me going to look at my notes. And we were missing huge chunks of opportunity. And it came about in the most normal of ways. Another cabinet shop was coming up for sale, so they bought it. And they kept the name. And so bids were coming into that cabinet shop and the other cabinet shop. And so they started winning both or not. And then they started a project management company that would win one job and shift it to one of the other 2. And then in vertical integration, they bought an architectural steel company or an architectural glass company and an upholstery company. It's the same guys. The office, we sit at the same boardroom table. Well, we actually do it remotely, but it's the same board. Like nothing's really changed in the office, except they're running the business on simple systems. Wealth creation and real legacy comes from thinking differently and acting differently. It really comes from some minor changes and buying into those minor changes, and you can grow this business into something fantastic. From the outside, does it look different? No. From the outside, these guys are still driving the same trucks, but they're buying real estate. They're investing back in the business. They're taking out what they need to. They're taking more of it. The one thing you might see is they're taking more, longer, nicer vacations, right? All right. What would the professional development tool be for you on that? Let's think about that for a second. But the shift, I want you to move from being self-employed to business investor to business owner to investor. That's the shift in mindset, right? The legacy question you want to ask yourself, and I need to challenge you on here. I'm going to go into business coach mode now. I'm going to change my hat, right? I'm going to put my business coach hat on. Are you really building a business that will run without you? Can your family or somebody else take over what you've built, or will it just die when you stop working? I don't know the answer. You know, you've got to be working for something bigger than just the next job. Otherwise, you're a contractor who's just jumping, tripping, and falling from job to job instead of a business person who just happens to be a contractor, right? And are you following a proven wealth building system or just hoping things are going to get better? The choice is really yours at the end of the day. Some guys just keep grinding. The smart ones build a machine that will make money without them. You have to decide which one you're going to be. Now, I think that the right tool for this is the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. That is a good way for you to stop and reassess, especially if you have business partners. It's a printout. You print it out. You go to a coffee shop, put your headphones in, face the corner, get your favorite cup of coffee, grab a pen or a pencil, and just start doodling on this piece of paper. But I want you to write down, what does it mean to you to be healthy, wealthy, and wise? Healthy, wealthy, and wise, right? But there's another component to this because I cross-reference it against business, personal, and family. And when you start to see those overlays, you start to get your priorities, right? One of the greatest things that I ever heard was from a guy named Ryan, home handyman business, awesome guy, really high energy. But he said, I was asking him, why do you want business coaching? What are you trying to achieve? All of those basic questions. You think they're simple questions? And I usually think I'm going to get the same answer. I want to make more money. But when we got beyond that and I found out what he really wanted, he wanted to be the dad who could watch his daughter's softball practice and not be on his cell phone because she saw him every time he got on his phone. I don't know what your thing is as a dad or a mom or a brother, uncle, whatever you are. What is it you want? Well, it comes out when you do the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. So many people have told me they want to do more mission work or they want to homeschool their kids because they want a different future than what they see laid out in front of them. In the public system, if that's what you want, okay, put them down on paper. Let's go do it. That's where it starts. You've got to get your mind onto paper, and then we will show you how to get there. So the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise, just text me Healthy, Wealthy, Wise. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. Get a little cough here. My cell phone number, 315-903-7853. Just say Healthy, Wealthy, Wise, and off it goes. Okay, I want to talk about the contractors, the comparison. It's a simple way to compare your mindset and test yourself, right? So a struggling contractor is always reacting, always fixing problems and no systems in place. A wealthy contractor plans and positions. Remember, we talked about Sun Tzu in The Art of War. A wealthy contractor sets up systems before problems happen. Now, if you're a struggling contractor, you want to move to being a wealthy contractor, start setting up systems. That's how you do it. You kind of fake it till you make it. Start acting like you're a wealthy contractor and you will be one, right? A struggling contractor is busy. They do busy work, but they don't do productive work. They don't have laser focus on resource allocation, like I was talking about me learning from Alex Hormozy. They work hard, definitely working hard, but if they try to stay away from things that really will be impactful, really grow. Whereas a wealthy contractor focuses on what matters. And again, this would be a Brian Tracy thing. They tackle the most valuable work first. That's the basis of his entire book. Eat that frog, right? If you've got to eat 2 frogs, don't wait all day to do it. Eat them right away, first thing in the morning. And on top of that, eat the ugliest one first. I cannot imagine eating a raw frog and how that might taste, but I think that's the point that Brian's trying to make. Let's take it to another level. If you're a struggling contractor, you might find yourself owning a job, not a real business. And that's what I talk about here. My goal is to show you how to be a contractor who just happens, a business person who just happens to be a contractor, right? A struggling contractor owns a job. They own kind of a project, not a business. The business collapses if you stop working, right? If you're not on the tools, if you're not in the truck, if you're not in the shop, the whole thing falls apart. Whereas a wealthy contractor owns a system. They own a series of processes. And this we learned from Michael Gerber. Businesses run without them. That's the systems we want in place, right? And then a struggling contractor trades time for money. They see everything as an hourly investment or an hourly in, hourly out. There's no income if they're not working. Again, repeating myself, but I'm just underscoring the point. Whereas a wealthy contractor uses leverage to build wealth. Let's talk about some leverage tools you already use. You have a forklift. You have a CNC. You've hired employees. At some point, you understand you had to invest in those things to get a return from them. But, if we talk about Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about money and assets work for the wealthy, whereas struggling contractors, they trade time for money. So your next move, folks, is really up to you. How are you going to take what we've talked about today and turn it into assets and tools for your business? Really, most guys are going to stay in the struggling contractor zone the rest of their life. Smart ones, they make a conscious decision to shift onto the wealth building side, right? So your next move, stop just working harder and start thinking like a business owner. Remember, it all starts up here, right? What I say to myself when no one is listening is what the world sees when everyone is watching. That's something I've been saying to myself for years. What I say to myself when no one is listening is what the world sees when everyone is watching. Think about that, right? I want you to build systems that make your business run without you. The simplest systems. I know one of you guys want to hear one of my failures. I was dealing with a company. It was a family business, and the daughter, or the sister, as you might say it, was the president, the de facto president. She went on vacation. So it was up to me, the dad, and the two brothers. We were going to have the coaching meeting without her because she was off to some sunny tropical place. And so the time comes for our meeting. It's a Zoom meeting, as they all are these days. And I'm sitting there waiting. So I call the guys and say, hey, guys, how come you're not on the Zoom line? We got our meeting. And they go, we don't know how to log in. And it was the simplest of all systems. We'd been having meetings for years already. And it was at the point where she could take a vacation. That was her reward for getting coaching, putting systems in place. But the little tiny system that held this whole thing back was the fact that the guys didn't know how to log in because she always did it. So those simple, that's a funny system, right? But what are the other systems you have in place? What's your accounts receivable system? What's your billing system? What's your marketing system? What's your sales system? How do you send plans from engineering or drafting into production, right? What are your bottlenecks in production that are holding you back? Where's your quality control issues? Where's your customer service systems? All of those systems have to get worked on, but not all of them have to get worked on at the same time, right? So invest your profits into things that grow your wealth, not just pay the bills. Of course, if you're ready to make any of these shifts, send me a text and just say, Dom, let's talk. If you're truly ready to take the next step, this is what we do. We are business coaches. You guys know that already. We've got lots of programs available for business owners that are on a growth path. Just send me a text. Say, Dom, let's talk. And then you know what we'll do? We'll talk.
Hey, are you at the part where you recognize that your shop is only as good as its people? Training is a nightmare. Onboarding is hard. Finding the right people is even harder. Well, if you're at that point in your growth, then you're ready for something called the People Pack. It is a whole combination of people systems you can put in place in your business. I'm talking policies, procedures, worksheets, and assessments. All of the things you need to run this company properly with the right kind of people. If you want it, send me the words People Pack in a text message. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853.
Without, the right people linking it all together, right? So if you're stuck right now in self-employed mode, your chances are you're doing it yourself or you're surrounded by the wrong people. You see, the right team is the difference between owning a job and owning a business. And it is hard to put together the right team of people. And by the way, there's no magic pool of employees that your competitor draws on that you don't have. We all pull the same people. But as I learned at a conference once from another speaker, I either hired the wrong people, so the responsibility is on me, or I hired the right people and I trained them wrong. And when I learned that, I really took it to heart. This gentleman owns multiple unit franchises across multiple states. So one of the tools that's really going to help you for that is the Foreman self-assessment and career planning tool. It's a way for your foreman to assess themselves on paper, share that document with you, and you and that foreman can then plan out their future. Set a course for the future based on where they are today and where you want them to be, let's say in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year. What a great way to develop and support your foreman and to have a meeting about their skill set. In most cases, foremen don't get trained. You walk up to your most skilled person and say, hey, you're pretty good at your job. You want to be foreman? And he or she says, do I get a raise? And you say, yeah, for sure. And they go, yeah, I'll do it. But there's no training. You're setting them up for failure, absolute failure. So at least one of the systems you can, and we've got a lot of systems for on the people side because people is so critical in wealth building. But one of the systems I want you to have is this one. It's called the Foreman Self-Assessment Career Planning Tool. It's all about how to onboard, train, manage, and set a course for the future with your foreman. If you want that tool so you can develop your foreman, just send me, let's say, text me the word foreman tool. You guys know the cell phone, 315-903-7853, and just say foreman tool. Use your thumbs, foreman tool, right? Now, if you want general hiring tips on how to hire for attitude instead of skill, because that is really critical. We want to hire people with the right attitude. And even if we get people with a mediocre attitude, the fact that you're running your interview process by looking for attitude tells them, hey, that's what's expected at this company. So you're bringing them into the company with the right expectations. Remember, there's no magic pool of people. We're all drawing from the same pool of people, but you get to choose who you want in your team because it is your team. Right. So if you want we've got a document here called How to Hire for Attitude, and it includes 2 interview scripts with it. So if you're never sure what to say, the scripts are right there. So just say, text me, if you want that one, text me the words hire for attitude. There, that was hard. Say hire for attitude, and then we'll send that one off to you. The other one here is for those of you who are at that stage, and this is a really critical one, how to hire a project manager or onboard a project manager. That will save so much of a contractor's time. It's not even funny, because as you're growing the business, one of the things that we tend to hold on to as contractors is project management, right? We're still involved in project management, but you can only project manage so much. I'd rather see you managing project managers. Imagine your business as it is today, and imagine that you're still one of the project managers. Now imagine that you had 4 project managers that you were managing. How many times can I say manage in one sentence? But imagine that you were managing 4 project managers. How much production could your company do? How much more influential of a person would you be? Would you start to see yourself as a business owner, an entrepreneur who just happens to run a contracting business? Right? Now you can start giving back. Now you can live a life of legacy. Or as my friend Robert Whitaker said, and he got this from Stephen Covey, start to think of yourself as not a person who makes $1 million, but start to think of yourself as a person who has the capacity to give away $1 million, tithe, mission work, whatever is important to you. Who do you have to be to give away $1 million? Imagine if you had 4 project managers working for you. That's why you can't just be the project manager forever and ever. Amen. Right? So if you want that, send me the document that we have, the professional development tool for that. It's called the 8 leadership styles of project management and when to use them. One of our clients right now is a home renovator, and we call them a 3-and-3 home renovator. They start 3 projects and they end 3 projects every single month. And they are in a fantastic growth path, very profitable. Life is good. But one of their challenges is hiring and onboarding project managers. So this is the tool they're using right now. Anyways, if you want this one, I don't know, send me the keyword project manager. They'll say project manager, and then I'll send that off to you. And again, cell phone 315-903-7853. Now let's keep going on the people side. And this again, Patrick Lencioni, great author. There's 3 key people lessons when it comes to wealth and legacy building. The ideal team player for you is humble. I mixed up my words there. Humble, hungry, and smart. So the ideal team player is humble, hungry, and smart. Right? The best people in any business share these kind of traits. They're humble, so they care about the team. They don't really, they're not just solely concerned about themselves. They're hungry, so they're driven. They want to grow, and they don't need babysitting every single second. And they're smart, not just book smart, but people smart, and they work well with others. So you've got the capacity to build a good team when you've got people you hire who are humble, hungry, and smart. And the mistakes most contractors make is they hire based on skill alone. That person's great at this task. That person's a really good technical drafter. That person's an excellent project manager, excellent accountant, or excellent benchman. If you just hire on skill, you're missing most of it, because you have to hire on attitude and culture fit as well, right? This actually comes from the Rockefeller way of hiring. I'll get into that in another episode, right? The other problem that contractors make is they keep problem employees, right? You keep employees. Bad attitude Andy. Do you have bad attitude Andy on your team? You keep that person because they get the job done, but man, they kick off so much shrapnel. Do the math with me. If you're, let's just say $1 million business, just because the math is easy. If your sales per year is $1 million and you work 50 weeks a year, 40 hours a week, that's 2,000 hours per year. And I know I just smeared all those numbers across the universe. Pretty rough, right? Because I know you work more than 40 hours a week. But if I just do the math, that means your revenue responsibility per hour is dividing the amount of hours you work into how much money your company sells in a year. So that if we smash 2,000 hours into 1 million in sales, if we smash those numbers together, it means you have a $500 per hour revenue responsibility as the owner. Remember, you're the owner. Do this with me. Shoulders back, chest up. Chin up just by half an inch, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. It is my responsibility to make sure this company operates at $500 per hour effectiveness. And your numbers are going to vary, but that's the number I want. That's the formula I want you to use. If you've got bad attitude, Andy, and he's wasting 1 hour a week of your time, he's costing you $500 an hour. At least five. So if bad attitude, Andy, causes a problem every single day, that's 5 days a week. It's an hour a day. Do the math. That guy's holding back your legacy and wealth creation plans. Look at your little daughter, your little son, your niece, your nephew, or your grandkids. Bad attitude, Andy, is affecting their life. How long will you allow that to go on? Do not let problem employees hold you back. Nobody will hold me back in my business. I don't get held hostage in my business. That's why it's my business. And by the way, that's also why I suck as an employee, but that's another topic, right? And then the other thing we can do is micromanage instead of building great leaders, right? Micromanaging ain't going to help you. You got to build great people around you who have the autonomy and responsibility and skills to make their own decisions, even if they're a little bit wrong. Look at the outcomes. Don't look at how they did it. Look at whether the job got done, right? Anyways, if you fix this people thing, your business runs without you. But if you ignore it, you're always going to be stuck putting out fires. You're going to be in the hero mode, right? Patrick Lencioni has a great book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Why Your Business Feels Chaotic. And it comes down to when there's no trust, when people are afraid of conflict, when people aren't committed, when people are not held accountable, and when there's no attention paid to the results. And so you see those consistencies even with us in business coaching, right? There's high trust between yourself and your coach. We're okay with conflict. We can't always have nice, happy, fun conversations. Sometimes we've got to have tough conversations. Either way, you with us or us with you, right? There's got to be commitment, high level of commitment, because you're working very closely with another business owner. We're business owners too. You're a business owner, but you're working in a language we all understand, and we're all committed to an output, a result. High accountability because it's business coaching, and a lot of attention on the numbers, which is how we track the results. You fix all those things by being transparent with the numbers, encouraging real talk in your shop, in the field, in the office, with your customers, right? We just had a sort of a sit-down meeting between a cabinet maker and a home renovator that worked together. And the problem the cabinet maker didn't realize is they were passing problems on to the renovator, because the renovator would say, those cabinets are going to be ready by Monday, and they're not. And so the renovator's now stuck telling the customer lies. Well, it doesn't make it look very good, because that homeowner now tells their neighbors and tells their friends, and it makes it really hard for that renovator to go get more business, right? Just have real talk. Just tell me the truth. And we just hired, we interviewed Steve Heron from Brand Point Services. He runs about 500 subcontractors a year through Brand Point. And he was very open here. He's like, if you want to be a subcontractor on my team, don't be afraid to tell me the bad news, and I won't be afraid either. The worst thing you could do is hide or, mirror the bad news. Just have real talk. Anyways, the other thing that the really good teams do is they set clear goals and accountability, which is why we use strategic planning as a model to lay everything out on paper for us to follow. And they hold people to clear standards, and make things measurable, right? All of those go together to having a great team. When you shift your people, your business will shift with it, right? So you've heard before about putting the right people in the right seats. One of the things we do in business coaching is we help you build an organizational chart. It sounds pretty fancy, doesn't it? But that organizational chart allows you to see your company on paper and know the changes you need to make. And the mistakes most contractors make is they try to do everything themselves. They put people in the wrong roles, or they leave people in the wrong roles. They're not clear about roles, or they assume their employees will just figure it out instead of setting them up to succeed, right? All right, let's get to the point where we bring this all together. You can have the best strategy, pricing, and systems in the entire world, but if you're surrounded by the wrong people, you're never going to escape the grind, I guess, if we call it that. So I want you to hire humble, hungry, and smart people. I've given you some tools to do that. Use the Hire for Attitude professional development tool. Again, text me Hire for Attitude. Fix team dysfunctions, build trust and accountability and focus. If you want help with that, reach out to me, and put people in the right roles. put them in the right place in your business for them to do their best, right? That's how you build a business that runs without you, and ultimately a legacy that lasts. Just the other day, we started a new coaching client, and myself and the other coach, we work in coaching teams here. So there's always backup systems. One of the things that we asked the business owner said, are you prepared to drive by your shop? So this happened to be a cabinet maker. So let's just say it's Rubino's Woodworking, just for the make up a name. Are you prepared for the day when you drive by Rubino's Woodworking and you no longer own it, but maybe you own the land? And he was like, I never thought of that, because his identity is wrapped up in that business. But you have to put the right people in the right roles so you can build a team that looks like that. Maybe that's never your plan, but for him, we had to at least ask that question so we understood the goalposts that he's aiming at, right? But it's also up to us to ask those big, crazy questions that we learned from other places, like Robert Whitaker got from Stephen Covey. Who do you have to be to give away $1 million this year, as opposed to just making $1 million? Remember, humble, hungry, and smart? Humble people think about more than just themselves. So if I'm truly humble, I don't want to just make $1 million for myself. I want to make enough so that I can give away $1 million, give it to my church, give it to my community, give it to a sports team, give it to a college, donate a hospital wing. Why not? Why can't you be the person who builds a new hospital for your city? Let's think like that instead of, I wish I could afford a nicer truck. Who do you have to be? Right? Those are the important questions. Anyways, all of this today is meant to be a challenge. Are you building a wealth machine or just managing employees? Are you tripping from job to job, or are you building a real business? Look, if you're ready to look ahead and finally build a business that you want and you're ready to give me a call, go ahead and give me a call. Just text me. Just say, Dom, let's talk. And you know what we'll do? We'll talk. And of course, text me at 315-903-7853 anytime. Just say, Dom, let's talk, and we'll pick it up from there. By the way, if you set an appointment with me, we'll have 2 meetings. We'll have 2 meetings. You got about an hour and a half of free business coaching just by setting an appointment with me. Now, at the end of that second meeting, it's decision time. Are you going to do something or not? I mean, we're all busy people, but up until then, it's about an hour and a half of free consulting, free coaching. So might as well take advantage of it while you can. If you're really ready to change the legacy of your last name, let's do this. Thanks for checking in, folks. I appreciate you being here. We'll talk to you soon.